Hey everybody, welcome back. So today we're going to do the quick build video on the Kavan Norden. It's going to be a cross between doing some handheld footage as well as some front screen footage. So we're going to go through it. The receiver I'm going to be using is I'm going to be using a little bit older of a receiver that I have from my stock. I don't like to take inventory from the store. So this is an R8 Pro access receiver. So it's an FR Sky R8 Pro. I'm going to have to put a power lead for my VTX setup. We're going to have to solder that on right before the XT60 here, so I have that. I don't think I'm putting any other sensors or anything like that in it. I think I'm just going to go with a quick and dirty FPV setup on top of the wing, on the center of the wings here, held on with a little Velcro so I can just peel it off when I'm not using it. And I'm going to use just a regular receiver. Yeah, just to do the test flight and the maiden on this thing. I'll show you real quick what FPV setup I'm going to use. It'll be something like this. We have our little quick HD 3D printed FPV setup. It's a little backpack. It's got the VTX, everything all in one. So this will be quick and easy just to plop it on the plane with a little Velcro and take it on and off. I use this on my boat and cars and stuff like that and anything else that I could just swap from vehicle to vehicle. So I have a couple of these made that I just use for standby, and I actually make a couple of these for customers once in a while. I can do it digital, analog, whatever. So yeah, so that's that. All right, let's get into it. So first thing I'm going to do is get the receiver and figure out where I'm putting that. Then the next thing I will do is get my power lead set up for the VTX and figure out what I'm doing with that. And then we will get into putting the elevator and the rudder on, then the gear, then the wings, and then the prop and stuff, and then we're done. I shouldn't really need to use the instruction manual, but I will. It's a pretty simple, straightforward assembly, so let's get started with that. So what I'll do is I will show you where I'm going to mount the receiver. There's actually a nice spot here, right in the back. There's a little firewall back here between the battery compartment and the rest of the fuselage. So I'm going to mount the receiver in there, probably on the back side of it, closest to this board here. I'll make sure the antennas are in a 90-degree orientation. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, this plane's got a really nice carbon tube going down the middle of it too. I just noticed that. It's got a nice thick square carbon tube going right down the middle of the plane. Nice. I'll show you that too. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so this is my receiver, the FR Sky R8 Pro. I am going to mount it to the green box is right there. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to mount it. You can see here how it has this firewall. Now originally I was going to mount it on this side of it, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it down here. I'm going to mount it down a little bit right there. And then I can take the antennas and put one antenna going this way and then one antenna going the other way, and I'll show you when it's done. At least there I don't have to get any. These wires that are on this board right here are kind of short, so if I go right there I don't have to get any different wires or use any extenders or anything. I'll be able to go right into the receiver, which is nice. So, and there's nothing else really right there. I've got a little space and distance between the ESC, so that's okay. So yeah, so then here also, that's that carbon tube I was telling you about. Like, this is a nice square carbon tube. It's pretty thick. So yeah, that seems like the easiest, quickest place to do that. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And then there's another wire down there. That's the elevator, that's the rudder. Those are the only two wires back there. Okay. Yeah, so we'll get that into place and then we will go from there. And then I'm going to solder on a servo connector onto here so I can use my FPV setup. And then I'll figure out where I'm going to run that through. I might be able just to pop it through the wings without having to chop any foam or anything. I'm trying not to chop any foam up on this plane. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to keep this or not. I have to test it and see if it's going to fly. So I don't want to destroy anything on it. I don't want to cut anything up. I'm trying to do this in a way that I don't really affect the damage or damage the foam. All right. I'll come right back after the receiver is in. I'll use a little double-sided tape or hot glue to glue it in. And I'm going to do the servo connector on the battery as well, on the XT60 as well. And we'll come right back after that. All right. Alright, so the wiring for the receiver and the FPV setup on the XT60 is basically done. So now I'm moving on to the tail section, and it is pretty easy to do the tail section. Now, I don't know if I'm keeping this plane yet, so I'm not going to glue the rudder in if I don't have to. But what I would do is remove the paint from this surface here prior to putting the elevator on, and I would also remove the paint from this surface right here where that goes into there, and I would make some tiny little holes and grooves so when you do glue this in, it gets a really good bond from foam to foam and there's no paint in between the foam bonding. So something I do on all my foam planes that have parts that have to get glued on. Anywhere I need to glue the parts together, I remove any of the excess paint. This way you're bonding foam to foam. So just a quick tip. All right, so basically this goes on here like this. This is really easy. This plane is super easy to put together. And then there's two screws that go through and screw that down. So, two M5 by 28mm screws. Let me see if these are the right ones. Okay, get those screwed in. I'm not going to screw them in super tight. I would also probably, and I just noticed, I would also probably remove the paint from here. And the front of the rudder has to get glued in as well. So yeah, I would definitely remove the paint from there, remove the paint from there, and then glue that in. Make sure I'm not over tightening that, and make sure that is on there nice and tight. There we go. So that's that. And now the rudder gets screwed in right through here. So like I said, I'm not going to be gluing this in right now. And they also, you see the little notches right there, that's so there's space for the top of those two screw heads right there. So this just goes on like that. Okay, so to put the rudder on, we want to just make sure we line it up, get the back control horn over the elevator, and we want to get it and push it in. That's it. So, like I said, normally, if I was going to keep the plane, I would glue that down. I'm going to do the maiden, see how I like it. I'm sure I'm going to love it. But, you know, I might end up having to send out a plane to a bunch of reviewers and stuff, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. I'm just being honest. Alright, so then I just have to flip that over and put that screw through the bottom. Now you want to be careful and not over tighten. Remember, it's just a plastic insert glued into a foam piece. So if you over tighten it, you could absolutely pull the plastic piece through the foam. And that's probably why they have you glue it on. Okay. Okay. Rudder's on. And then the tail wheel just pushes right into here, like this. Just pushes right in. And it just pushes straight into there. Make sure you push that in good. Alright. So, tail's pretty much set up. I'm going to zero out the servos with the servo tester, and then I'll hook up the control surfaces, and then I'll get started on the landing gear, which that's going to be a little bit of assembly. There's a bunch of parts for that. So, moving onwards. Alright, so now we are at the part of the landing gear. So, looking at the instructions here, the landing gear has a bunch of parts that need to be screwed together. So, we're going to do that. So we have these two main pieces. I have the cotter pins, and these pieces, and screws, and this is the wing spar. So we'll put the wing spar aside for now. So we're going to get crack-a-lacking on putting together the landing gear. Alright, and we'll come back to that, and I'll let you know if I have any issues with any of it. But yeah, that's where we're at. All these little pieces have to go on to here, it looks like. Yeah. Okay. So let me get this figured out, and I'll start assembling it, and I'll show you once this part's assembled, and then we'll get the wheels on. Alright, so step one is you got to screw these little side pieces on, and they just screw straight into the plastic here. You want to make sure you don't screw these on too tight. They need to have a little bit of play in them. So that's the main thing. Also, I would go slow screwing these in, and make sure the screw is pretty lined up, because I could see you definitely stripping this out or messing it up or breaking something if you don't take your time and screw it in. So those are done, and now I gotta mount them to the wings, and then they get mounted from the wings to the fuselage. I'm guessing they go somewhere around here, but yeah, I'll figure that part out next. Alright. So, LOL, I actually jumped forward on accident, and, well, I was flipping through the instruction manual. So I have to put the wheels on first. You gotta put the wheels on first, and put those on, and then I can put these pieces on. So, yeah, gotta do that first. Alright. Let's do that. Alright, so I have the wheels on. I just gotta put the cross brackets on, and if you need a little pump to fill up these little wheels, they have these cheap little pumps you can get on Amazon for like a couple bucks, and you need a little basketball pin, and you just push it right into there, pump it, boom, inflate the tires. But you're definitely going to need one of these. They give you a pin comes in a box, but you're going to need a little pump to fill up the tires. That's it, wheels are on. Okay, so the next step is I have to put the wing struts on to the wheels, and they go here and here, and I guess they crisscross. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. There and there. Also, what I would suggest is for these screws, I would put a little Loctite on them. I did put a dab of Loctite on these screws, and I would put a little bit of Loctite on the screws for these as well. You don't want these to loosen up. So, yeah. Don't put the permanent Loctite. I don't know. I forgot if it's the blue or the red. Whatever the permanent one is, don't use that stuff, but use the Loctite. That will allow that to stay tight because you don't want your lanyard gear to come loose. Alright, onward and upward. Alright, so I got the wing strut or support built. Kind of a pain in the butt. You got to kind of wiggle it around to get it to fit, to get the screws through. So the screws go all the way through there. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws on each side. Now the good thing is you don't have to do that every time you want to fly this. The cotter pin here just clips onto the plane, and that's how you take the wings on and off. So that's good at least. I wish this kind of collapsed flat with the wing, would make it easier to store it, but I don't know, maybe I could do something with that down in the road in the future. Well, I guess, I don't know. And, you know, the way I store my planes, they all are on racks and stuff, so it just would make it easier if this collapsed flat, but that's alright. Yeah, so that's pretty much that. So I got the other wing to do. I'm going to do that. You don't need to see that. And then put the FPV setup on it. That's all done, and then we're good to go. Alright, stay tuned. Alright, so there you have it. The Norden is all wrapped up and ready for its maiden flight. As I said, I'm going to be flying it with my new radio, the X18 RS in glamour color. This is all set up. The LEDs on this plane are nice and bright. This plane has leading edge slats, and they are coupled with a single servo and a little mechanism right there, as you can see. And when you hit the flaps,
flaps half, flaps down, flaps half,
the slats work at the same time.
Up, flaps half, flaps down, flaps half, flaps up.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be keeping this plane, so I have my little quick FPV pod on there that's got a run cam split whatever in it with HD and then a VTX and everything, so I can record HD from that. Throttle cut is all set up. Alright, this is one of my prototype stands. Don't get too good of a look at that. That will be coming out soon. It is a foldable stand. Very nice. Yeah. This is it. So let's check it out. Landing gear on this plane, very, very nice. Inflatable tires. And that's it. She's ready to go. I'll show you the cockpit real quick. How I tucked the FPV cables. Now the rudder has a decent amount of throw. It's got a lot of rudder authority on it. Elevator's got some good amount of throw too. And then the ailerons. And I'll show you the flaps from back here.
Flaps half.
So everything happens in unison.
Flaps down, flaps half, flaps up. Flaps
This is full
half,
flaps right
flaps
there and
down,
slats.
Flaps
That's half.
Flaps
That's
up.
closed. Alright, nice size plane, really is. I'll do some footage real quick, maybe after the maiden flight of the Norden next to the mall and the Pilatus, just so you get a size comparison of what this plane really looks like. But that's it. Let's hope the maiden goes good. Show you my cockpit real quick. I just have a small 1800 in here right now while I was testing everything. I just wired, there's a little split in the foam here, so I don't have to permanently damage anything. This is where the wings connect. Just ran my power lead from there, and then my power lead I soldered onto the XC60. Okay, that's it. She's ready to go. So, maiden flight happening soon. Wish me luck.